I can remember one time when I was actually a co-founder. This was back in 2019. I was just so shy of telling people I was a co-founder. So, hi guys, welcome back. So, I want to share an experience that I had last week with one of my mentees, and I see the need to actually put a couple of things into context. Because my mentee reached out to me. She called me on phone and she told me that she wanted to talk to me about something that was very, very important. So I said, okay, no problem. Can you have my ears at the moment? So she told me that she was called into a startup that they're just starting, kind of like, and she wanted to join them as her first project. And I said, okay, what's up with that? So she now said she was then giving the head of that front end department, and she was kind of skeptical about it. So I said, okay, so what are you skeptical about? So she was like concerned about the fact that she just moved from learning HTML and CSS, and she's just starting JavaScript at the moment and all the stuff like that. So I said, okay, I asked her a question that, have you seen a businessman before who has no idea about what he's doing, but he has actually called a lot of people to work on that particular project? She said, yes, she has seen it. So I then told her that, why don't you just look at it on that perspective? Because there are lots of people who do not have some certain kind of idea, and you also have a privilege because you have an idea of how this stuff works to an extent. And it dawned on me, and I was like, I think there are lots of people who would have actually pitched themselves in a way indirectly that shows that they have these leadership capabilities to get things done. And they then assign them into such a kind of position, and they be like, oh shit, I don't know what to do. And sometimes it might end up being in a situation where they begin to have some sort of like an imposter syndrome, and they begin to get scared about the entire situation, where they decide to now back off or tend to put themselves in a position where they feel like they are incapable when they are given that certain position. So I want to put some things into context as regarding this. First of all, I brought the scenario of a businessman or someone who is not too aware about most of the activity. We notice that most developers know how to do the work or get their hands dirty, but they do not know how to pitch themselves, and they don't know how to sell, kind of. So there are a couple of other activities, and at the same time too, they don't have this idea of leadership capabilities, and that can actually stem from your upbringing to an extent. It can stem from a lot of factors you get. So I believe that in her own scenario, I see it as an opportunity rather than a layback, because it's just an opportunity for her to understand the verticals and even push herself further to learn as much as she can learn. And she's not only going to be learning on the basis of the fact that she's just going to be coding, but she's going to be learning on the basis of the fact that she's also going to be delegating activities to people to do. So I think the gap between what she's doing currently and how she's going to achieve what the startup is actually requesting for her to achieve is to understand the various verticals that are kind of involved at the various segments of achieving those activities. Like for example, like getting to understand the flow cycle of the job description from the UI UX, or from the project manager down to the UI UX design, up to the front end and the back end activities till it's actually deployed to an extent. So I think it only lays a perspective too in another ideology in my mind, that the thought about theory is to an extent the distilled essence of practice. If you're in such a kind of shoes, I think it's important you put yourself in a position of understanding the theoretical part of everything that actually evolves around that project, and delegate tasks as much as possible. And also on the basis of the fact that this entire activity for the delivery of the project is based on teamwork, I think it's important she actually settles down to like get to have a discussion, get to have something that would actually lay out on the capabilities of what they can be able to do, and leverage on assigning tasks or delegating the various activities that should happen within her own space. So sometimes it might look like one is trying to be an imposter in that situation where you're being given a task to do and you feel like a fraud. But I also see it from another perspective, that there's also an opportunity for you to find yourself find yourself in the point of taking more responsibilities, find yourself on the point of trying to make sure that you are able to delegate things to people, having an opportunity to know how to report back to people who have actually given you that position, knowing how to, there are just a whole lot of verticals and there are whole lot of opportunities that you can be able to learn, and that actually skyrockets your experience to a large extent. So I've been in a scenario where one actually moved from an internship position into a senior developer, and that happens to be me at a certain period in my life. I've actually had a lot of privileges that my peers have not been able to have, which I'm actually grateful for at the moment. So I see the need to actually put all these things in context, and people should be able to leverage on opportunities rather than seeing it as a setback, and getting to figure out people who have actually been in such scenarios. Like, for example, we've seen places in the Bible where someone was just 8 years old and was actually given the opportunity to be a king by God, kind of. So, and we've seen scenarios where startup founders didn't even have too many experience to actually put themselves in a position where they are saying, okay, it's worth it for me to be a startup founder. Some of them just had like maybe 2 years experience, built a product and scaled the product to wherever they built a unicorn out of it, and the rest was history. So I believe you shouldn't limit yourself when it comes to things like that. And if you're actually scared of the idea of having that fraud mentality, I think you should put yourself in a position of wanting to learn that thing that makes you feel like you're a fraud. Yeah, like for example, she said that she was actually feeling like a fraud because she doesn't know how to do JavaScript or build in React or build whatever language that seems to be at preference to the company and all those stuff like that. But I just felt like maybe you don't need that at the moment. Just keep on learning within the process, because you will definitely learn when you have a lot of people around you working together. In as much as you're actually moving from, you're a front-end developer who just knows how to build in HTML and CSS, it's also important you focus on your strength, because that is what you can do. So it's important that if that project if the UI UX guy is done, you can just say, okay, I'm going to be helping you guys to convert this stuff from HTML to CSS. Then the other front-end guys would actually like tweak everything into JS and all those stuff like that and do their magic and whatever. And at the same time, it can give you an opportunity to learn that. So if you're feeling like a fraud, I think it's important to actually figure out and manipulate how much you're going to be learning and forcing yourself to learn, in as much as you are kind of like in a team or you're working alone and all those stuff, and push yourself forward to an extent. So I believe that some responsibilities that are given to individuals should not necessarily be rejected, except on delegate cases to an extent, because I feel like sometimes it might just be an opportunity for you to discover yourself as much as you can. We've seen people who like all of a sudden they were just like, let's say entertainment for example, they just sang one song and they just blew out of that, and from there they began like learning the various things that they need to learn to keep themselves on that trajectory and all those stuff like that. So you're saying this at the moment and you're having this thought of the fact that you're not capable of doing things. I see the need to actually let you know that you need to focus on your strength. I got to notice that in this creator economy, this entire idea of creator economy that is actually existing in our modern times, you necessarily do not have to become an expert to actually achieve some certain levels in your life or some certain activities in your life to an extent. Because I'm not also saying that it's actually going to be that easy or it's something that is easy to do. It's also hard to an extent, because like getting to even dive deep to say you want to be focused at something is not easy, but still you don't necessarily need to become an expert to get some things done. There's a point where you just have some certain level of validation and everything begins to work for you to a certain stage, or you work hard to a certain point and everybody consumes what you're doing and you become like valid to a certain state. Yeah, so let me give you another very, very good example. We all know that most of the times, like when we are working on a projects seem to be kind of different to an extent. But just imagine you've never worked on this particular project before in your life, and after 2-3 months, you get it out. Just all of a sudden, you notice that you've actually created a mindset that you want to keep your reputation and you want to get that job done, and you will go extra mile to make sure that that activity is done as much as possible. So look at it from a point of when you're actually delegated to be given something to do, and or a leadership position to do, and you have to create some certain levels of mindset that I can actually do this activity to an extent. So because if you can actually do that by executing a certain kind of project, then you can actually go out of your way to look for what it takes to actually lead people to a certain extent too. So you can actually, so another thing I actually want to talk about is everything that evolves around leadership has to do with some certain level of confidence to an extent. So you have to be confident of yourself. You have to put yourself on the idea that as you're confident enough to report back to your to the people you're reporting back to, or to your heads. You're confident about the fact that whatever you discuss around your team, they get to do them, trying to hold them accountable at certain states in their activities, that, oh, you're meant to do this, you're meant to do this, you're meant to, what's up, why is this stuff not done, and all this stuff like that. So I think the major component around the idea of leadership, and this actually goes out to the mentee who reached out to me too. So you need to have some certain level of confidence when it comes to, because if someone can actually reach out to you and say, oh, based on the way you talk, I think you can be able to lead, then I don't think it's necessary you need to actually reject it. You should just see it as another opportunity for yourself, and that will stem through a lot of things, I know a lot of people, a lot of business people, a lot of project managers who don't even understand what they are doing, but they've come to a point that with the level of confidence they've had, they've used the opportunity to manipulate their way into learning it, and it's now become a thing to them where they can now be able to present themselves, even when it's something that they had not even started doing right from time. So most of the time, the software developers that are actually into this whole idea of acting like imposter syndrome. Because I can remember one time when I was actually a co-founder, this was back in 2019, I was just so shy of telling people I was a co-founder. So when I'm there, by then I had already moved to Lagos, and I think I had a job for one NGO like that, and he told me to come. I think the man who was supervising the NGO told me to come to somewhere around Ikeja, Lagos. So when I went there, I saw him, and he asked me what I'm doing in Lagos, that am I going to be here? And I told him that I just came to consult for a company. That was what I told him. I didn't even open my mouth to say co-founder. And it's not just on the basis of the fact that I was just co-founder by words, but co-founder actually, a co-founder who was also managing about almost 20 to 30 staffs. It was just so bad, actually. It really affected me to the core. And it happened that we succeeded at the entirety of most of the activities that we were doing at that moment. So I think it's just something that happens to people, and one of the ways I actually got rid of it was to actually put myself in a position where I can be able to learn all these leadership qualities and go out of my way to delegate tasks as much as possible, let people know. And then I was I was even smaller than this. I was smaller than this. So Nigeria, everybody likes respect. So if you are not big, they will not respect you and all those stuff like that. But still, that doesn't matter. You just have to have some level of confidence, and it will put you at bay when it comes to the aspect of where you need to make people accountable for what they are meant to do to an extent. So I think that's all for it. And if you think you have a response to what I'm talking about, if you agree or disagree, you can put it in the comment section. I'll reply you as much as possible. Or when I see the comments, if you agree with what I'm actually saying, you can also put it in the comment section. And I believe my mentee would also be looking at the comments to see what people have to say about what I'm talking about right now, and the suggestion I actually made to her. And if you have any addition or any input to what I'm actually saying at the moment, you can actually put it in the comment section below. If you are just joining us for the first time, thank you for joining us at the moment, and please don't forget to subscribe and like this video. So if you're a continuous visitor on this channel, I got to notice that 81% of the people who are actually watching my videos are not subscribed. Please do well to subscribe. In my next video, I would actually be talking about why experts are actually paid higher, and that will relate on the basis of the exception and also on the rule. So stay tuned for my next video, and I really appreciate it. Peace out. Thank you.